I rewatched Kiki's Delivery Service in theaters for its 30th anniversary screening recently. Shout out to the good people at G-Kids for making the annual Ghibli Fest happen once again. What I appreciated most this time around while watching the film was feeling like I finally understood Kiki as a character. What I want to talk about today is why, in my opinion, understanding the nature of Kiki's depression, quote-unquote, is key to understanding both her as a character as well as Miyazaki's central themes throughout the film. It's important to note how differently Kiki appears in the opening moments of the movie compared to the rest of the film. While surrounded by friends and family, people who share the same customs and understand the significance of her journey to the big city, she is distinctly more cheerful and confident. She's spunky, sure of herself, and enthusiastic about beginning her training. But this sense of self-assuredness dissipates almost as soon as Kiki glides past the outskirts of her hometown. From here, she leaves the comfort and familiarity of her village life and enters uncharted territory as she heads towards a modern world that will prove to be unwelcoming and hostile even for a 13-year-old girl with old-fashioned values. Essentially, what Kiki experiences going forward is a form of culture shock that results from encountering people and places whose lifestyles and values are in stark contrast with her own. Cue the rain. Interestingly, Kiki's first obstacle in the film is both symbolic and physical. Physical in that it's a literal storm that hits that suddenly threatens to knock her off course. Symbolic in that it signifies the turbulent yet often hard to grasp difficulties that Kiki will soon encounter. However, in this case, the rain also becomes a way for us to understand Miyazaki's central theme throughout the film. If the rain represents the downpour of change that is constantly looming over our heads, threatening to wash us away, then Kiki's broomstick represents the steadfastness that comes from staying true to one's beliefs and the support system a family inherently provides. Initially, Kiki wanted to bring her own newly fashioned broom on her journey, but her mother insists that she take her broom instead, stating that, although old, it never loses its way in a storm. Kiki protests at first, but ultimately heeds the words of her elders and Gigi and accepts her mother's old broom. More than just another instance of mother knows best, this symbolizes the wisdom that elders can provide if we care to listen. Wisdom is guidance gained through personal experience. It's a form of tradition that we can only receive if we are open to it and if we have a strong connection and respect for the people who impart it onto us, typically our elders. Much like how Kiki didn't argue with her mother over wearing the traditional black dress that witches have worn for centuries, the fact that Kiki is willing to take her mother's advice proves to not only have been the right decision in hindsight, but illustrates how much respect Kiki has for her mother and her family's customs. But as Kiki will soon learn, staying the course is not an easy thing to do. Miyazaki once again utilizes rain during a crucial moment in the film. After helping Madame, a kind old woman who asks Kiki to deliver a pie to her granddaughter for her birthday, Kiki has to rush to make the delivery and try to make it back to Tombo's party on time. To make matters worse, a storm hits. Kiki has no choice but to ride through it to keep the pie from going cold. She arrives at her destination soaking wet and makes the delivery, only to find that the recipient, Madame's granddaughter, is completely ungrateful, both for Kiki's service or for her grandmother's efforts. She reluctantly accepts the gift, signs Kiki's ledger, and rudely shuts the door in Kiki's face, but not before remarking, indignantly, "I hate Grandma's stupid pies." Notice that Gigi is not nearly as affected by this as Kiki. He simply brushes it off with his trademark snarkiness. But for Kiki, this moment is particularly disheartening. She flies off, riding aimlessly through the rain as if she's completely given up, as if her spirit has been wounded somehow. Even Gigi can't quite understand what's wrong with Kiki at this point. He asks if she has a headache or needs to eat, but Kiki just points at some food on the table and goes to bed without saying anything. And so we come to the lowest moment. Kiki has lost her magic, and none of the people closest to her seem to understand what has her so down, including herself. "I think something's wrong with me," she tells Gigi. "I make friends, then suddenly I can't bear to be with any of them." To me, this is because Kiki is someone who takes people's actions directly to heart. Because her values have shaped so much of her worldview, each interaction she has with people in the city informs that worldview and subsequently either dispels or confirms her doubts and fears. In a journey that's had its share of ups and downs, Kiki's negative experience with Madame's daughter is enough to tilt the scales, reaffirming Kiki's worst fears that the city and its people will never want or accept her. This fear is so strong that it literally breaks her spirit, as Kiki finds out soon afterwards that she has lost her magic and feels completely alone. The isolation from the rest of her peers that Kiki experiences is a direct result of a clashing of values and traditions that lead Kiki to feel as though nobody understands her. Once again, it will take the kindness of a familiar face to remind her that she's not as alone as she may think. Much like Osono and Madame, Ursula, the young artist that Kiki had met earlier in the film, is someone that Kiki finds common ground with through shared values, despite their differences in age. Noticing she's in low spirits, Ursula invites Kiki to come with her to her cabin for a few days and unwind. During their time together, Ursula reminds Kiki of the importance of staying grounded and maintaining a positive connection with yourself, even if that means getting away and dropping everything for a while in order to build your confidence back up. She imparts wisdom that helps Kiki remain steadfast and realize that there have been kind-hearted, compassionate people surrounding her all along. Kiki returns to the city with a renewed spirit and a better understanding of herself as a young witch. This gives her the strength to help a friend in need and prove her worth in front of the entire city, swooping in and saving the day in dramatic fashion as only she can. What I particularly love about this end scene is that the sense of triumph you feel is not so much because Kiki saves Tombo, but because you get the sense that she's going to be okay, having triumphed over her own internal conflicts. Her victory is measured in the new friends and relationships she will make and the peace that she has found within herself. It was a change that didn't occur in a single instant, but throughout the course of a journey, one filled with experiences and interactions with different people, both positive and negative, that allowed Kiki to grow and accept the change that is necessary for that growth. Way back in the beginning of the film, there's a moment when Kiki's mother and the old woman, Miss Dora, are talking about Kiki's training and the traditions of witches that are beginning to fade. After I'm gone, who will make this medicine? Kiki's mother asks Dora, referring to the medical potions she makes for the village elderly. Sign of the times, I'm afraid, Dora replies. Everything changes, bit by bit. Kiki's journey throughout the film symbolizes this change. Like all change, it doesn't come easily, and we often fear it at first. Accepting it can be a very difficult thing to do because often the most difficult changes to make are the ones within ourselves. But change doesn't mean giving up who you are or forgetting where you come from. On the contrary, it's this connection to one's traditions and values that guides us as we maneuver through the many changes that life throws our way. A lightning rod to help us stay grounded through turbulent times. Or in this case, a broomstick. Ultimately, when we open ourselves up to change while having the courage to stay true to our values and beliefs, we will find that there are plenty of people out there who are willing to accept us and love us for who we are, even if some of us are a little old-fashioned. And that's all that really matters, isn't it?